Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, now listen to the counterpoint.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. We are coming at you on June 2nd, 2021. Lots of crazy chaos going on in the world, as it seems there is every day of the Biden administration. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim.
I'm on the right.
He's on the right today. We don't have a far right, though. The right.
I'm on the far right now.
The far right, though. Okay.
As much as lefties would like to say libertarians are far right, clearly not. But anyways, So Tim is a pilot in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee, and I will be your host today. So let's jump right into the topics. Well, I tell you, one of the things that has become apparent over the course of the Trump administration, and certainly now more than ever, is this, fake news, and the idea that the media can just sort of say whatever it feels it wants to say about people, and they're actually might be held accountable. We had a few instances. The Covington kids sort of held CNN and some others, I think, accountable.
The Washington Post also.
Yeah, the Washington Post, because they misrepresented them as having instigated some kind of a racial upheaval in Washington, D.C. at the monuments there. And now when Alan Dershowitz actually defended Trump in the impeachment, CNN had sort of cut their tape to take out part of his statement in which he was trying to show whether or not, it was okay, what Trump had said or did in his actions. And essentially it all comes down to Trump doing things that were not criminal, but essentially otherwise anything that that Trump did would essentially to try and get himself reelected. And the press and the lefties seem to think that, anything that's a sort of a quid pro quo, anything that, gosh darn it, quote up in front of me, but essentially that's what they were trying to impeach him for in the issues with the Ukraine and the call, and I'm not sure if there were some other issues too going on there in that impeachment. But
no, it was about the call to Ukraine and the supposed quid pro quo that Trump supposedly engaged in.
Yeah, and so what Biden essentially said is, anything that, or not Biden, excuse me, what Dershowitz was trying to argue in the impeachment hearing is that anything that was not actually criminal, but was simply something that would further him getting reelected, was actually something that every politician engages in. And he said you'd essentially have to impeach everybody who's president if you were going to impeach Trump for this. And that was the case. He was the CNN cut out the part where he said, aside from anything criminal. So essentially made him sound like, anything Trump does to get himself reelected is okay. And that's what Dershowitz had a problem with. And so Dershowitz is suing CNN as libel. And CNN tried to have the case dismissed, and the judge rejected the dismissal. So the case will go on. And this is kind of an interesting case, I think, for a little bit for libertarians too, because this also maybe constrains the media as well. And I know a lot of libertarians would probably have a little bit of discomfort with that as well. If the media thought it was constrained to be able to tell a story because somebody might sue them. So this is kind of an interesting issue. But certainly CNN seems to have well abused the line of whatever, sort of telling the truth, I guess, and trying to, giving them any of the benefit of the doubt as to whether or not they're trying to mischaracterize people in their news media. You guys have any thoughts on this story?
No, when we're talking about free speech, we always have to be so careful about where you draw the lines. I mean, we know for sure that I cannot go in a crowded theater and shout fire and say that's protected by free speech, because it is not. I cannot incite violence, or I cannot threaten somebody's life and call that free speech. So all these things are not protected. So there are lines that we draw on this on free speech. In this particular case, though, what we are talking about here is reputational damage. So what CNN did, which I agree is quite appalling, really, it's egregious by every measure that you can think about, it's egregious. The question then becomes, though, in their conduct, is it actionable? Can Dershowitz win a case on libel because of what CNN did? Now, like I said, I agree, what CNN did was quite appalling. However, I am very, 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 very leery of siding with Dershowitz on this particular issue, okay? Because it gets back to free speech. And while I agree that CNN, I wish we could take CNN off the air because of this damn nonsense they always do and they always engage in. I think this should be a case where CNN, I hate to be agreeing with CNN, boy. I think I have to agree that CNN should win this case, because I think the free speech is whole, even when they have done this thing that is so objectionable.
Okay, well, I'll go on the other side. I'll side with Dershowitz on this, because it's one thing, and if he's got to win, really, before we know for sure if he had a good enough case to win.
True.
I suppose that's it's kind of like let's see who wins the game kind of thing. But if they are taking parts of his speech that are qualifying parts that explain what the conclusion is of the next part, and completely remove those. And the funny thing was, they originally had his entire speech and then they cut it and replayed the cut version over and over and over again. So and it hurt his reputation. So that's what he's going after them against. I don't think that's got an issue with free speech. I think it's a libel issue. I mean, like you say, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Well, okay, you can't, give a false representation. All CNN has to do, which they're quite good at doing, is put these false narratives out there. And then it doesn't matter if they get sued, if they lose the lawsuit, if they have to pay, if they have to redact the things they said, for the next 10 years as a underline headline thing to each and every broadcast of theirs. It doesn't matter to them. They win on the very first time they damage somebody's character on the other side, which would be the right in this case, or if it's Trump, So CNN lives and dies by their viewership, what's left of it, which is the real shocking criminal part, right? To me, the shocking thing is anybody still watches CNN. You've got to be a brain dead moron to do that. Are you kidding me? Really? You still trust them after all the stuff they've lied about, including the weapons of mass destructions and stuff to get us into wars? They deliberately did that, and that's been proven up one way and down the other. Okay, so it's just like, are you serious? You're still watching CNN. So CNN, go right ahead, do all that kind of stuff. I hope you lose this one, so that at least it'll be on record that, I guess you can't just have all upside to your defamations of character. You can't have all upside to your lies and let's leave that part out. Okay. The viewers don't need to see that. We decide where. Up here at the top of CNN, up there, us central planners at the top of CNN, we are the ones that decide for you, you stupid viewer of CNN, which you are. So why are you even doing it? I don't know.
But Tim, okay, I understand your point. I am in total agreement that what CNN did was appalling and very objectionable. But if Alan Dershowitz wins this case on reputational damage, where then do we draw the lines? Where do we draw the lines?
How about reputational damage? How about, if somebody's angry enough about what they said or didn't say, or what they left out or what they took out, how about there? Okay, at that point, I mean, if they don't get bit back, they're going to keep right on doing what they're doing.
But there's still, but even objectionable language is protected by the First Amendment.
Well, no, that's not. They didn't say the qualifying things that Dershowitz said. So Dershowitz laid the foundation, and they left that part out. And so it made it appear as if he was saying a president can say whatever they want, do whatever they want, even if it's illegal, as long as they want to be president. That's essentially what he said.
To take this to the extreme, suppose CNN just captured a bunch of words and then put them together of Dershowitz or somebody else saying them, and then ran that as though he said that. Would that be, because that seems to me to be the extreme of what's happened here. Now, what they really did is they just eliminated half of what he said.
The first half. They eliminated the first half. That's right.
But let's take it to the extreme. Suppose that they said that they took enough words that, Dershowitz had said in many different speeches, put them all together, and then he said, I am for murder, right? Or something else like that, right? And then they have Alan Dershowitz saying that to the camera in front of everybody, and the CNN viewer is just dumb enough to believe that that's what Dershowitz actually said. The point is, that would be the extreme. Should that be illegal or should that not be illegal?
Well, that will have to be illegal because you have manipulated words to come up with something. You're making new words out of the man's mouth. But in this case, they are not making new words. They are playing exactly what Dershowitz said, even though they left out the first half to make it look like he was arguing that Trump is immune no matter what he did.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Which Dershowitz never made that argument.
Okay,
but they just left out words.
But in your
case, in your scenario, Jason, you are saying they're actually creating words out of the man's mouth.
Well, they're actually using the same words. They're just putting them into completely unintended contexts.
Different order. Different. Okay,
They're creating new sentences. They're creating new sentences with words he actually
and string them together differently. Yeah. And that what you're saying?
That's kind of yeah.
Right, but then they're making new words out of the man's mouth.
Yeah. Well, they're making new sentences out of the man's mouth.
Okay, new sentences then. Okay, fine. Whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But that's manipulated language. That's not the same thing as what's happening here.
Yeah. Well, I do have a little bit for your side of the argument too, as well, Leon. A fairly preeminent thinker on the libertarian side, and you can see him at Mises, is Walter Block. And so Walter Block has, in his book, Defending the Undefendable, has talked about the case of the libelist, and should that person be able to, I guess, commit, should that be, I guess, against the law? Should you be free to do that? And in his opinion, you don't actually own your reputation. Your reputation is something that's in other people's heads. So the idea that somebody could say something or potentially false about you. Now, this isn't quite the same thing. They're sort of taking a statement that's and pitching it in a different way to make him look like it's something that he thinks that's not really what he thinks. But still, as far as the damage to reputation goes, he seems to think that, well, you don't actually own the ideas in somebody else's head about you. So, the idea that you could potentially alter their ideas about, somebody is damaging your reputation, since you don't really own your reputation, then you can't really, I guess, claim damages for something like that. I don't know. What do you guys think about that argument?
I think I would have a big argument with what, even though his position will support my position in this case, but I think I'll have a big argument with him about not owning your reputation. Your reputation is your livelihood. I mean, if I came out of the University of Oklahoma, I had an engineering degree. I had a little bit of a reputation because they spoke to a couple of my professors to know what kind of person I was. What if they had said, hey, that Leon, he might know his stuff, but he ain't really good to work with. What if they had said something like that? I would have never got my job. I would have never end up, because of that job, I end up with my permanent residency card here in the United States. God knows what would have happened to me. That would have been serious reputational damage. I don't own my reputation. No, I don't think so, Jason. I can't agree with that. Even though Walter Block's position on this particular issue will support me, no, I have a big argument with that statement.
Okay, well, I would say if Dershowitz doesn't own his reputation, then neither does CNN, whose reputation really is the one their reputation is the one that's on trial here, not Dershowitz, because he clearly said what he said, and it was recorded in full, and everybody knows, and it was recorded by the court stenographer or whoever was taking notes, and so it's not the one that's, and so he's going up against a Goliath, a Leviathan named CNN with the bazillions of dollars they have. Still, I have no idea where they get it beyond belief for me that they still have any money at all. They should be bankrupt. But anyway, this is their reputation that's on trial here, not Dershowitz, because he clearly said what he said. And so I say, hey, have at it, everybody, and may the best
whoever win
plaintiff win. Yeah.
Yes. But good point about Walter Block's statement, Tim, about if Dershowitz does not own his reputation, neither does CNN. So that's a very good point you made. Yeah, that's a very good point. However, I think we all own our reputations, okay? We really do, because our reputation is our livelihood.
Well, it may be your livelihood, but I guess the issue is, can you own the idea that somebody else has in their head about you, as I think Walter Block's point. And really, that's really what the reputation is. So I guess, certainly it's very kind of abstract idea here, but it really gets down to the, kind of some core concepts. And I don't know that we'll resolve that today.
No, we won't. But yeah, Jason, you're right. Okay, your reputation is somebody's idea of perception of you. It's something in their head. But that reputation, that idea in that head, is what will give me a living. Yeah. And if this show becomes popular, and we start to make some money and that kind of stuff, it's because people have some idea in their head that, oh my goodness gracious, these guys are great. These guys always have these great insights. Tim always tells us about Tulsi and everything else. Man, this is such wonderful insight. That is in their heads. Yeah. But it may become our livelihood. Yeah. So damaging somebody's reputation could damage your livelihood. And I think that's a big deal.
Well, Walter's livelihood was damaged by some false accusations in his academia job in academia. He and his friends, not particularly him, came to his defense, and even his own writings, or Walter's own letters in his defense also. So I think I don't care who owns my reputation if it's being sullied dishonestly. If it's a lie, or if it's a misrepresentation of the truth, then it behooves me to try to rectify it any way I can. And if that's a lawsuit, then so be it.
Well, there's something too that sort of backs up a little what you're saying there too, Tim, and that's that. Ron Paul used to always, be asked about. Well, your constituents tend to get a lot of, goodies in these budgets, and I thought you were for, small government, and why is this? Why are your constituents benefiting so much? And what his answer was, and I heard him say this in an interview on 60 Minutes, because it was sort of like a gotcha question. And I thought it was a really good answer. And it said, well, every year I try to argue with these people about we shouldn't spend this much money. And then But then they go ahead and they make these budgets. So I make sure that the stuff is in there for my constituents, and then I vote against it. I tell everybody to vote against it. But if these idiots are going to vote for it, then my constituents are certainly going to benefit from it. Yeah. Those are sort of the rules of the game. And what you're saying, Tim, is, well, the rules of the game, regardless of what you think of who owns your reputation, rules of the game say that, hey, you can sue in certain circumstances, so you might as well take advantage of those. Before we totally run out of time on this, let me jump over to another topic real quick. Foxconn. We've been trying to get to this forever. Crony capitalism. And Jane, maybe we could get the visual up on the screen real quick. What we have here, and I'm not seeing anything, so maybe I'll have to stop sharing and come back into it real quick.
Okay. Well, anyway. Just a bunch of guys shoveling a bunch of something. We don't know. Yes. It looks brown. Brown in color.
Well, so anyways, I'm not sure if it's up now. There we go.
That's right.
So in terms of Foxconn, this was a deal that Trump had, this crony capitalism and economic nationalism, the idea that these guys constantly want our government to get involved in creating jobs. And so Donald Trump was a hard push for this company Foxconn, I guess they're from China, coming in and putting some production into, I think it's Wisconsin. And he wound up calling it the eighth wonder of the world. And so apparently they spent billions on this of government money, and they barely got any jobs out of it because the whole project's sort of fallen apart. And even if it had gone okay, they were still talking about in the neighborhood of hundreds of thousands to $1 million per jobs created. And it's just a ridiculous thing. You guys have any thoughts on the whole crony capitalism? It seems it's ugly no matter which party does it. So anyways, but this is Trump.
Go ahead.
It generally doesn't work. There's times when you can have like a space program and you're going to pull all kinds of technologies out of it as kind of side benefits, things like that can help the economy. War. Hey, there's a good moneymaker right there. I mean, you can develop all kinds of technologies that you never would have had you not tried to have some kind of defense, like GPS, for example, GPS satellites, and all the jobs that has created over the last 40 years or so, 30, 40 years. So it's it's not without its success stories, but I mean, some of this kind of stuff is just like Solyndra and all. There's so many of them, and of course the ones that there's Knucklehead. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Leon. Did you have something?
Leon, do you want to jump in before we go?
No, it just goes back to the whole problem of government picking winners and losers, government deciding what's essential and non-essential. I had more to say, but we are Knucklehead Nose Patrol, so it's fine. Let's go.
Okay. Well, as they said, that's
Foxconn.
It's now time for Knucklehead Noise Patrol, and that is the sound. And this is where we try to bring up something silly that some politician or media person said. This time it's Bill Maher that we want to pick on. And Bill Maher is kind of a funny guy because he's one of these guys who constantly tries to claim he's a libertarian. It's like, based on what? I'm not sure. I think
I have a friend that does the same thing. He's the polar opposite of libertarian. But anyway.
Well, essentially, he's against the war on drugs, and so I guess we can hold hands on that. But he's constantly for big government and these ideas of big government. And so he had a recent episode this last Friday where he came out. And he was essentially attacking all of these Hollywood celebrity types who were coming out of the woodwork to run for office, whether it be in the recall in California with Caitlyn Jenner coming out, or people like The Rock or Matthew McConaughey coming out. But regardless, the things that the reasons, and I think I can agree with him that these guys probably wouldn't be great leaders. Okay, I think
true. Yes,
on the same page. But his rationale for it is a little bit scary and very sort of anti-libertarian. And so essentially, he seems to have this faith in central planners who are I guess educated to become central planners. And so essentially, he says high-level government jobs should go to people who train for them and know what they are doing. And then he went on to say, I bet those people who are in charge now, meaning Biden, know the answers to the questions that will come up. They don't have to look it up or ask. And then, one other point he says, no one has to tell Biden what's in the Constitution. And so, this faith that he has in Biden, I just thought, maybe we could burst his bubble just a little bit, because here was a quote from Biden, which was not quite the Constitution, but it's Biden talking during the campaign about the Declaration of Independence. And let's hear.
Well, no sound.
No volume, Jason.
Oh, okay. Darn it. Okay. Well, let me see here. So technically,
You go down to your little sound symbol there. See what you get.
Yeah. You gotta raise your song symbol. We're not hearing anything.
Okay, hold on a second.
We the people.
Let's try it one more time.
Down by traitors, certain inalienable rights.
Okay, let's try this one more time. Okay.
We share our democracy. And above warning, not a joke, think about it. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
Okay, so unfortunately, we had about as many mishaps as Biden did with this. Declaration of Independence.
Leon, take it.
You got to remember. You got to remember, this man was more popular than any person who ever won for president in the United States. Okay, he got 80 million votes. He sat in his basement. This half-senile racist sat in his basement, and he could make statements like that, and he have made many of them. And yet, you know what? He became president. As for Bill Maher, who is our most wonderful, he's a libertarian. He always said that about him being a libertarian. Every time he opens his mouth about politicians, he's ready to criticize a Republican or someone on the right. But he's a libertarian. Remember, he's a libertarian. I would bet you, if he had realized that Operation Warp Speed was executed by Donald Trump, you'd have probably have a very big criticism of that. I am absolutely sure about that. But Bill Maher, don't worry, he's a libertarian. He loves us all. He loves small government, but he just loves to see the expansion of government when it suits his purpose. Oh, he's such a wonderful guy.
Well, maybe he should include comedians in his list of people that shouldn't run for office.
There you go. That's right.
So I guess that leaves me out right at the moment. I don't know.
Yes. Damn, Tim, how could you exclude yourself like this, man? Come on.
I don't know. Comes natural. All right.
So funny with these guys, though, is they have such faith in central planners. The idea that this complicated job, that it's really too complicated for any person, can be done if you just have the proper pedigree for, and then you can come and lead us all, and make choices for us all and determine when we need to be locked down and when we need to have our businesses shut down and everything else. It just, it's absolute hubris, on these leftists always think there's some wise person above, some little God above that could tell us the right thing. They could always tell us the right thing. That's what these leftists think. This is wokeness on steroids. Yeah. When it's funny, for somebody who is so against religious faith, he has so much faith in G-O-V. Big G-O-V.
Not G-O-D. Not G-O-D.
G-O-V. Well, that's about all the time we have today for our show. So thanks so much for joining us, and we hope you'll see us at the next one. Thanks so much. Stay